Kyle Martinez walked through the crystal corridors of the Galactic Council station with careful steps. His simple brown shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor, while alien beings twice his size moved past him without a second look. The humans had been part of this council for 3 years now, but most species still treated them like amusing children who had somehow learned to speak. The station orbited Proxima Centauri and stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of different life forms conducted business here, from the tall crystal beings called Zephyrians to the floating energy clouds known as the Ethereal Collective. Kyle had learned to smile and nod at all of them, playing the role of the friendly human ambassador who was just happy to be included. Today felt different, though. Kyle could sense tension in the air as he made his way to the main council chamber. The Zephyrians had been making more aggressive moves lately, and several smaller species had quietly asked him if Earth might help mediate disputes. Kyle always gave the same answer with his practiced, innocent smile. Earth was just a peaceful little world that wanted to learn from their wise galactic neighbors. The council chamber was a massive dome filled with floating platforms for different species. Kyle took his place on the small human platform near the back, where Earth had been assigned when they first joined. It was meant to show their low status, but Kyle had learned to use it as the perfect spot to observe everyone else without being noticed. General Vex Ka of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center platform, his crystal body gleaming under the chamber lights. The Zephyrians looked like giant insects made of living gemstones, and their voices created musical tones when they spoke. Vex Ka was the size of a small building, and his voice could shatter glass when he was angry. "Fellow council members," Vex Ka announced, his words creating perfect harmonies that made the air vibrate. "The Zephyrian Empire has decided to expand our operations into the Outer Rim territories. These systems contain valuable resources that are currently being wasted by primitive colonies." Kyle kept his face neutral while taking careful notes. The Outer Rim included several human settlements, including the farming colony on Kepler 442b, where his cousin Ben Torres lived with his family. Kyle had visited there 2 years ago and remembered the beautiful valleys where human families grew, crops under alien suns. "What about the beings already living in those systems?" asked Nira Flux, the representative of the Hydrozoan Syndicate. The aquatic aliens looked like giant jellyfish and spoke through water-filled translation devices. "Do they not have rights to their homes?" Vex Ka's crystal face shifted into what Kyle had learned was a Zephyrian expression of amusement. "The primitive species in those systems will be relocated to safer areas where they can be properly protected. The Zephyrian Empire has a responsibility to ensure all lesser beings are cared for appropriately." An energy being from the Ethereal Collective floated forward, its glowing form pulsing with different colors. "The Collective agrees with this assessment. These emotional organic creatures cannot be trusted to manage valuable resources efficiently. Their chemical-based thought processes are too unstable for proper development." Kyle raised his hand politely. The gesture always made the other species pause, because humans were so rarely heard from during important discussions. "Excuse me, General Vexka, but could you help me understand what you mean by relocation? I want to make sure I explain this correctly to my people back on Earth." Several aliens made sounds that Kyle had learned were equivalent to laughter. The human ambassador was so simple that he needed everything explained in basic terms. Vex Ka's crystal features softened into what passed for patience among his kind. "Of course, little human. The primitive beings will be moved to special facilities where they can live safely while the Zephyrian Empire develops the resources their worlds contain. They will be fed and housed appropriately for their needs." Kyle nodded enthusiastically and wrote more notes. "That sounds very generous. And these facilities will allow them to continue their normal lives and customs?" "They will be given work that matches their capabilities," Vex Ka replied. "Physical labor suited to their simple minds. The Zephyrian Empire has developed very efficient systems for managing lesser species. Dr. Lisa Harper sat quietly in the human observation section, her tablet recording everything. To the aliens, she appeared to be just another human scientist, overwhelmed by the advanced civilizations around her. In reality, she was Earth's chief xenobiologist and had spent years studying every species in the Council. Her innocent questions about alien biology had given her detailed knowledge of their weaknesses that no one suspected. Kyle continued asking simple questions while Lisa sent coded messages through her tablet. The messages looked like research notes about alien culture, but they actually contained detailed intelligence reports that would reach Earth within hours through quantum communication networks the aliens didn't know humans possessed. As the Council session continued, more details emerged about the Zephyrian expansion plans. They intended to take control of 17 systems over the next 6 months, claiming them as protectorates for the safety of the inhabitants. The other powerful species nodded along, either supporting the plan or remaining neutral to avoid conflict. Kyle made sure to ask about the timeline and which systems would be affected first. Kepler 442b was third on the list, giving them perhaps 2 months before the Zephyrians arrived. He asked these questions with the innocent curiosity of someone who just wanted to understand galactic politics better. When the session ended, Kyle approached Vexka directly, the massive crystal being looked down at the small human with what might have been fondness. Over the past 3 years, Kyle had established himself as harmless and even entertaining to the more powerful species. General, I hope you don't mind me asking, but my government will want to know if Earth needs to prepare for any changes. We have some small colonies in the Outer Rim, and I want to make sure they know what to expect. Vexka's musical laugh filled the air around them. Your tiny settlements need not worry, little ambassador. The Zephyrian Empire recognizes Earth's protected status. Your people will be treated with the same care we show all peaceful creatures. Kyle smiled widely and thanked the general for his kindness. As he walked away, Lisa fell into step beside him. To any observer, they looked like two confused humans trying to understand the complex politics around them. The message went through, Lisa whispered without moving her lips. Earth knows everything. Kyle nodded slightly while maintaining his pleasant expression. Ben and Kate need to start preparations immediately, the others too. Already handled. Director Blake activated the protocols 20 minutes ago. They continued walking through the station like two simple humans overwhelmed by their first real taste of galactic civilization. Behind his innocent smile, Kyle was calculating distances, travel times, and tactical advantages. The aliens had just made a crucial mistake by underestimating Earth, and now humanity would show them what that error would cost. Director Paul Blake stood in the underground command center beneath the Colorado mountains, watching as screens around him came to life with reports from across the galaxy. The awakening protocol had been activated, and humanity was finally dropping its peaceful mask after 3 years of careful preparation. Dr. Rachel Kim sat at the central console, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that would have impressed even the advanced alien species. The technology looked simple from the outside, disguised as primitive Earth computers, but underneath ran quantum processors more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had seen. All sleeper agents have confirmed activation, Rachel reported, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were beginning. Amy Chen reports full access to ethereal command structures. Mike Rogers has the Hydrozoan military codes. Sarah Williams confirms Zephyrian supply routes mapped and ready for disruption. Blake nodded as he studied the tactical displays. For 3 years, these agents had posed as simple human traders, researchers, and workers throughout the galaxy. The aliens had found them amusing and harmless, never suspecting that each one was a highly trained operative gathering intelligence and preparing for this exact moment. General Frank Morrison entered the command center, his expression grim as he carried the latest reports from Kepler 442b. The Zephyrians have begun their approach to the colony. Ben Torres is leading civilian preparations, but they only have days before the crystal ships arrive. Kate Torres is still broadcasting? Blake asked, referring to Ben's daughter who had volunteered to document whatever the Zephyrians planned to do. Yes, sir. Her transmissions are being recorded by our hidden satellites. The galaxy will see exactly what Zephyrian protection really means. Rachel pulled up a new display showing Earth's hidden military assets. To the Galactic Council, humanity had a few small defense ships barely capable of protecting their home system. In reality, Captain Jake Sullivan commanded a fleet of advanced warships hidden in dark space beyond Pluto, using stealth technology reverse-engineered from alien designs and improved with human innovation. Captain Sullivan reports the fleet is ready for immediate deployment, Rachel announced. All ships are fully stocked and crews are at battle stations. Blake studied the fleet positions on his display. 37 ships that officially didn't exist, each one designed to exploit specific weaknesses in alien technology that humanity had discovered through years of patient observation. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they never bothered to hide their tactical limitations from the primitive humans. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Amy Chen sat in the ethereal research facility where she had worked for 2 years as a cultural anthropologist. The energy beings around her pulsed with their usual patterns while discussing human emotional responses as if she couldn't understand their complex communication methods. Amy had learned their language perfectly within 6 months but continued to act confused by their advanced concepts. The ethereals found human emotions fascinating in the way scientists might study interesting bacteria, never realizing that Amy was using their own dismissive attitude to map their entire command structure. The organic creatures continue to display irrational chemical responses to stress, one ethereal observed, its energy form shifting through several colors. Their primitive neural networks cannot process logical thought when flooded with these emotional compounds. Amy nodded along while secretly recording everything through implants the ethereals couldn't detect. Their energy-based senses were designed to read other energy beings, making them blind to human technology hidden in organic matter. She had spent months documenting how their collective consciousness worked, learning that despite their claims of superior logic, the ethereals were just as predictable as any other species once you understood their patterns. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Harper worked in her laboratory beneath the Geneva Research Facility, surrounded by alien technology that the Galactic Council believed humans barely understood. The truth was that Earth scientists had been reverse-engineering everything they could get their hands on, often improving the original designs. The Zephyrian crystal communication systems have a fatal flaw, Lisa reported to Blake through secure channels. Their harmonic resonance creates a feedback loop when exposed to specific frequency combinations. We can turn their own technology into a weapon against them. She pulled up holographic models of Zephyrian crystal ships, pointing to the communication arrays that connected each vessel to their command structure. If we can generate the right harmonic interference, we can overload their entire fleet communication system. They'll be deaf and blind in space. Blake smiled as he watched Lisa's demonstration. The aliens had always assumed that human emotions made them inferior, but those same emotions drove creativity and innovation that purely logical species couldn't match. Where alien technology followed predictable patterns, human engineering incorporated chaos theory and creative problem-solving that made their designs impossible to predict or counter. On Kepler 442b, Ben Torres gathered the human colonists in the main settlement hall. The farming colony had been established 5 years ago and now housed over 3,000 people who had built homes and lives under the distant star. Ben looked out at families he had helped settle. Children who had been born here, elderly folks, who had come seeking peace in their final years. The Zephyrians will arrive in 36 hours, Ben announced, his voice steady despite the fear he felt. "We've received word from Earth that help is coming, but we need to be ready for whatever happens before then." Kate Torres stood near the back of the hall, her recording equipment hidden but running. At 25, she had become the colony's unofficial historian, documenting their daily lives and struggles. Now she would record whatever the Zephyrians did, ensuring the galaxy would see the truth behind their claims of protection. "Dad, what do we do if they try to take people?" asked a young farmer named Eric Miller. Ben's expression hardened. "We follow the protocols Earth sent us. We document everything. We resist peacefully when possible, and we survive until help arrives. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're showing the galaxy what humanity really stands for." Back in the command center, Blake received reports from across human space. Every colony, every trade ship, every embassy was receiving the same message. The time for hiding was over. Humanity had spent 3 years learning about their galactic neighbors, and now they would use that knowledge to reshape the balance of power. "Sir," Rachel called out, her voice urgent, "we're receiving a coded transmission from Admiral Nira Flux of the Hydrozoan Syndicate. She wants to arrange a secret meeting with Ambassador Martinez." Blake raised an eyebrow. The aquatic aliens had always been enemies of the Zephyrians, but they had never shown particular interest in humanity before. "What's her message?" "She says she's noticed inconsistencies in human technology reports. She thinks we might be more useful allies than the Council realizes." Blake nodded slowly. The first pieces of the galactic chess game were beginning to move. Soon everyone would learn that underestimating humanity had been the biggest mistake the galaxy had ever made. Captain Jake Sullivan watched from the bridge of his flagship as the Zephyrian crystal ships approached Kepler 442b like a swarm of deadly jewels against the black of space. For 3 years, his fleet had remained hidden in the dark regions beyond. Known space, but now the time for shadows had ended. "All ships report ready for engagement," Commander Alex Reed announced from his position at the tactical station. Alex had trained for this moment since joining Earth's secret military program, learning to think like the aliens they would face while maintaining the unpredictable creativity that made humans dangerous. Jake nodded as he studied the enemy formation on his screens. The Zephyrians moved in perfect geometric patterns, their ships arranged in crystalline structures that maximized their energy weapons' effectiveness. It was beautiful, logical, and completely predictable to anyone who understood their rigid thinking patterns. "Begin Phase 1, Jake ordered. "Let's show them what happens when they threaten our people." The first human ships to decloak were small fighters that appeared to be fleeing from the Zephyrian fleet. The crystal being's sensors detected the vessels immediately, and their ships moved to intercept what appeared to be desperate refugees. The Zephyrians had seen this pattern countless times before when conquering primitive worlds. But as the Zephyrian ships closed in, Alex activated the real attack. The fleeing human fighters suddenly released clouds of metallic particles that looked like debris from damaged engines. The Zephyrians ignored the particles, focusing on capturing the human vessels to interrogate their crews about Earth's defenses. Then the particles began to sing. Dr. Lisa Harper had designed the harmonic disruptors based on her analysis of Zephyrian crystal communication systems. The particles generated specific frequencies that created feedback loops in the aliens' crystal technology, turning their own ships' hulls into massive resonating chambers that amplified the destructive harmonics. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Zephyrian ships began to vibrate as their crystal structures resonated with frequencies their design couldn't handle. Communication arrays shattered first, cutting the ships off from their fleet coordination networks. Then the harmonic waves spread through their hulls, creating stress fractures that spiderwebbed across the beautiful crystalline surfaces. General Vex Ka's command ship shuddered as the resonance reached critical levels. the massive crystal being grabbed onto his command platform as his ship's harmonic systems failed one by one. For the first time in his long military career, he couldn't hear the constant song of his fleet's communication network. "What is happening?" Vexka demanded, his musical voice cracking with frequencies of fear that other Zephyrians had never heard from their general before. His tactical officer's crystal form flickered with stress patterns. "The human particles are generating counter-harmonics. Our ships cannot maintain structural integrity under these resonance patterns." On Kepler 442b, Ben Torres watched the sky as the Zephyrian ships began to list and drift, their perfect formations breaking apart as individual vessels lost the ability to coordinate with their fleet. Kate Torres stood beside him, her recording equipment capturing every moment of humanity's first open military action against the galactic powers. "They're not destroying the ships," Ben observed, understanding immediately what Earth's strategy meant. "They're capturing them." Kate smiled as she zoomed in on the disabled Zephyrian vessels. "Dad, I think the galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just fight differently. We think differently." In the Galactic Council Station, Kyle Martinez received urgent reports from multiple sources as news of the Kepler 442b engagement spread. The alien representatives were in chaos, unable to understand how primitive human technology had overwhelmed the Zephyrian crystal ships so completely. An ethereal collective representative floated toward Kyle's platform, its energy form pulsing, with confused patterns. "Human ambassador, can you explain how your people accomplished this? Our analysis indicated that Earth possessed only basic defensive capabilities." Kyle maintained his innocent expression while internally celebrating humanity's first victory. "I'm sure it was just luck. Maybe our ships hit something important by accident." But across the galaxy, other species were beginning to ask harder questions. Amy Chen sat in the ethereal research facility, listening as the energy beings tried to analyze the battle data from Kepler 442b. Their logical minds couldn't process what they were seeing because they had never encountered an opponent who used deception and psychological warfare as primary tactics. The human vessels displayed no advanced technology signatures, one ethereal scientist reported to its colleagues. Yet they achieved complete tactical victory against a superior force. This contradicts all known principles of military science. Amy pretended to be confused by their technical discussion while secretly recording their analysis methods. The ethereals were brilliant at understanding energy and mathematics, but they couldn't comprehend the human approach of using an enemy's strengths against them. Their purely logical thinking made them blind to solutions that required creative leaps and intuitive understanding. Meanwhile, Admiral Nira Flux of the Hydrozoan Syndicate received her own intelligence reports about the battle. The aquatic alien studied the tactical data with growing interest, her tentacles rippling with excitement as she recognized the sophistication behind humanity's apparently simple victory. "These humans are not what they appear," she informed her. "Tactical council through underwater communication chambers. They have been studying us while we dismissed them as primitives. I believe we may have found the allies we need against Zephyrian expansion." Back in Earth's command center, Director Blake watched as reports came in from across the galaxy. The battle at Kepler 442b was just the beginning, but it had already accomplished something more important than military victory. It had shattered the aliens' assumptions about human capabilities and started them questioning everything they thought they knew. "Sir," Dr. Rachel Kim announced from her position at the communications console, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Zephyrian ships. They're asking for mercy and offering to provide intelligence about their fleet dispositions." Kies smiled as he realized that humanity's reputation for mercy and fairness, which the aliens had seen as weakness, was now becoming a strategic advantage. The Zephyrian crews knew that surrendering to humans meant survival, while fighting meant facing weapons they couldn't understand or counter. "Accept their surrenders," Blake ordered, "and make sure every species in the galaxy knows we treat prisoners. with dignity. Let them learn that humans can be more dangerous as friends than enemies. On the flagship, Jake received new orders from Earth as his crews began boarding the disabled Zephyrian vessels. The crystal beings offered no resistance, their rigid military structure leaving them helpless when their command networks failed. "Captain," Alex reported as he reviewed the intelligence they were gathering from captured ships, "these Zephyrians have detailed maps of every defensive position in the galaxy. They've been planning this expansion for decades." Jake nodded grimly as he studied the strategic implications. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't just been expanding randomly. They had been systematically positioning themselves to dominate every other species in the galaxy, including the ones who thought they were allies. "Send everything to Earth and Kyle Martinez," Jake ordered. "It's time for the galaxy to learn what the Zephyrians really had planned for them." As news of humanity's victory spread, species across the galaxy began to realize that the harmless little creatures from Earth might be their only hope of avoiding complete domination by the Crystal Empire that had been manipulating them all along. Admiral Nira Flux moved through the underwater corridors of her command ship with urgent purpose, her tentacles rippling with excitement as she reviewed the intelligence reports from her spies throughout the galaxy. The human victory at Kepler 442b had changed everything, and she intended to be on the winning side when the dust settled. "Prepare a secure communication channel to the human ambassador," she ordered her communications officer, a smaller hydrozoan whose bioluminescent patches flashed acknowledgement. "Use the diplomatic frequency, but encrypt with our highest security protocols." On the Galactic Council station, Kyle Martinez received the encrypted message while maintaining his usual friendly conversation with several minor species representatives. The message was brief, but significant. The Hydrozoans wanted to discuss a formal alliance against Zephyrian expansion, and they were willing to share military intelligence to prove their good faith. Kyle smiled politely at the alien diplomats around him while his mind raced through the implications. The aquatic species had been fighting the Zephyrians for decades, but their water-based technology and the crystal beings' energy weapons had created a stalemate. Now they saw humans as potential game-changers who could tip the balance in their favor. Across the galaxy, Amy Chen sat in the ethereal research facility as chaos erupted around her. The energy beings were experiencing something they had never encountered before. Genuine confusion about a problem their logical minds couldn't solve. Their analysis of the Kepler 442b battle had revealed that human technology followed no predictable patterns. The organic creatures appear to have developed adaptive systems that modify their function in real time. One ethereal scientist reported to its colleagues, its energy form flickering with frustrated patterns. "Our mathematical models cannot predict their behavioral responses because they incorporate elements of controlled randomness." Amy nodded along as if she barely understood their technical discussion, while internally she marveled at how completely the ethereals had missed the point. They were trying to understand human creativity using pure logic, like trying to measure music with a ruler. Their inability to comprehend intuitive problem-solving was making them increasingly desperate to find some mathematical explanation for human success. "Perhaps we should consider direct communication with these humans," another ethereal suggested, its energy form pulsing with curious colors. "They may possess computational methods that could enhance our own analytical capabilities." Amy nearly smiled at the irony. The supposedly superior energy beings wanted to learn from the primitive humans they had dismissed as chemically driven animals. She made a mental note to include this in her next intelligence report to Earth. On Earth, Dr. Rachel Kim stood before a wall of screens in the underground command center, coordinating the most complex intelligence operation in human history. Across dozens of worlds, human agents were simultaneously revealing themselves and activating pre-positioned assets that had been hidden for years. "Mike Rogers reports successful infiltration of the Hydrozoan military network," Rachel announced, to Director Blake. "He's uploading their complete tactical database now." Sarah Williams has triggered the automated systems in the Zephyrian Supply Depot on Rigel 7. Tom Jackson confirms that the ethereal communication hub is compromised and ready for our signal. Blake nodded as he studied the tactical displays showing human operations across the galaxy. Each agent had spent years building trust and understanding the species they were assigned to study. Now they were using that knowledge to expose vulnerabilities that no alien species had ever imagined existed. "What about the Galactic Council itself?" Blake asked. Kyle reports that 17 species have privately contacted him about forming a coalition against Zephyrian expansion. The evidence we provided about their long-term domination plans has scared everyone who isn't already under crystal control. Captain Jake Sullivan's fleet had grown from 37 ships to over 200 as human vessels emerged from hiding places throughout the galaxy. Ships that had posed as simple cargo haulers and research vessels were revealing military-grade weapons and defensive systems that made them competitive with any alien technology. Commander Alex Reed coordinated the fleet's next major operation from his position aboard Sullivan's flagship. Intelligence from captured Zephyrian ships had revealed the location of their main crystal farms, where they processed enslaved populations from conquered worlds. The farms were heavily defended, but they had a critical weakness that human tactical analysis had identified. The crystal farms require constant harmonic resonance to maintain the conversion process, Alex explained to the assembled ship captains during their strategy briefing. If we can disrupt those harmonics at multiple points, simultaneously the entire facility will become unstable. Jake studied the tactical plans on his display, noting how the attack would require perfect timing and coordination between ships operating in different dimensional phases. It was the kind of complex operation that alien military doctrine said was impossible to execute reliably, but human crews had trained for exactly these scenarios. "Remember, our primary objective is liberation, not destruction," Jake reminded his captains. "Every being we free from those crystal farms becomes a witness to what Zephyrian protection really means." On Kepler 442b, Kate Torres had become something more than a colonial reporter. Her broadcasts about the Zephyrian attack and subsequent human rescue had reached every corner of the galaxy, carried by communication networks that no one realized were under human control. Species that had never questioned Zephyrian motives were now seeing documented evidence of their brutality. Ben Torres worked alongside former Zephyrian prisoners who had been freed from the disabled crystal ships. The aliens were amazed by human treatment of captives, having expected torture or death based on their own military traditions. Instead, they found themselves given medical care, decent food, and protection from retaliation. "Why do you show us kindness?" asked one young Zephyrian whose crystal carapace was still growing after being damaged in the harmonic attack. "We came to enslave your people." Ben smiled as he helped adjust the aliens' makeshift shelter. "Because you're not our enemy. Your leaders made you into a weapon, but that doesn't make you evil. Everyone deserves a chance to choose a better path." Dr. Lisa Harper worked in her laboratory on a new project that would demonstrate humanity's most dangerous capability: the ability to transform enemy technology into something completely different. Using crystal samples from captured Zephyrian ships, she was developing harmonic amplifiers that could heal instead of harm. "If we can reverse engineer their bioconversion process," she explained to her research team, "we can use Zephyrian technology to undo the damage they've done to enslaved populations, turn their greatest weapon into our greatest mercy." The implications were staggering. Humans wouldn't just defeat the Zephyrian Empire, they would demonstrate that every alien technology could be reimagined and improved. Where the crystals had created suffering, humans would create healing. Where energy weapons had brought destruction, human modifications would bring protection. In the Galactic Council chambers, Kyle Martinez stood before an emergency session as species representatives, demanded explanations for the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The careful balance of power that had existed for centuries was crumbling as everyone realized how completely they had misunderstood the situation. "Ambassador Martinez," called the ethereal representative, its energy form flickering with desperate patterns. "Your species appears to possess capabilities that were not disclosed during your admission to this council. How do you explain these discrepancies?" Kyle maintained his innocent expression while choosing his words carefully. "I think maybe we've been learning faster than anyone expected. Humans are pretty good at adapting to new situations." The understatement of the millennium hung in the air as alien species contemplated what it meant to have completely underestimated the small creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable star system. They were beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics, but their ability to see possibilities that no one else could imagine. 2 years after the galaxy called it the Revelation War, Kyle Martinez stood in the newly constructed Interstellar Cooperative headquarters orbiting the neutral world of Haven 7. The massive station was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built using the best technologies from dozens of species working together for the first time in galactic history. The old Galactic Council had dissolved within 6 months of humanity revealing its true capabilities. The rigid power structure based on military dominance had crumbled when species realized that strength could be used to protect rather than control. Kyle now served as the first human high coordinator, a position created not through conquest, but through the simple recognition that humans had become the galaxy's most trusted mediators. Admiral Nera Flux glided through the station's aquatic sections, her tentacles moving with contentment as she reviewed reports from the new joint defense fleets. The Hydrozoan Syndicate had become humanity's closest military ally, their bioengineering expertise combining perfectly with human tactical innovation to create defensive systems that protected trade routes across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Integration project shows remarkable progress, she reported to Kyle during their weekly coordination meeting. "Former Crystal Empire worlds are requesting membership in the cooperative faster than we can process applications." Kyle smiled as he reviewed the statistics. The Zephyrian Empire had collapsed not through destruction, but through something far more effective: forgiveness. When human forces had reached the Crystal homeworld, they hadn't brought weapons of war but tools of reconstruction. The harmonic gardens that Dr. Lisa Harper had designed were turning the rigid crystal cities into beautiful spaces where different species could live and work together. Captain Jake Sullivan commanded the Interstellar Defense Force from his flagship, now accompanied by vessels from 17 different species. His crews had learned to work alongside former enemies, turning the galaxy's military traditions upside down by proving that cooperation created stronger defenses than competition ever could. Commander Alex Reed served as Sullivan's chief of integrated operations, coordinating defense strategies that used each species' unique capabilities. Zephyrian harmonic systems provided early warning networks, Hydrozoan bioships could repair themselves during combat, and ethereal energy beings had learned to power defensive shields that protected entire star systems. "Sir, we're receiving long-range sensor data about those signals from outside the galaxy," Alex reported during the morning briefing. "The analysis teams believe we may be looking at an approaching fleet of unknown origin." Jake nodded thoughtfully as he studied the preliminary data. For months, deep space sensors had been detecting organized energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. The patterns suggested technology and intelligence, but nothing that matched any known species. It was exactly the kind of external threat that the cooperative had been designed to handle. Dr. Rachel Kim worked in the new Collaborative Intelligence Center, where her AI networks had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The quantum consciousness she had developed incorporated thinking patterns from all allied species while maintaining the creative unpredictability that made human AI unique. "The external signals appear to be scanning our galaxy systematically," Rachel explained to the Cooperative's Emergency Council. Based on the patterns, they're looking for something specific. We need to assume they represent a potential threat, until proven otherwise. The council chamber filled with representatives from 43 species, all of them working together to address challenges that no single race could handle alone. Ethereal energy beings provided computational power, hydrozoan bioengineers offered adaptive solutions, reformed Zephyrians contributed harmonic analysis, and dozens of smaller species brought their own unique perspectives to every problem. Amy Chen served as Director of Interstellar Relations, her experience with deep cover operations having evolved into something more valuable: the ability to understand and bridge different ways of thinking. Her work had helped create translation protocols that went beyond language to interpret cultural concepts that had never been shared between species before. The approaching signals suggest a highly organized civilization, Amy reported to the council. But we don't know if they're explorers, refugees, or conquerors. We need to prepare for all possibilities while hoping for the best outcome. On Kepler 442b, Ben Torres had become something he never expected: the governor of one of the galaxy's most successful integration colonies. The world now hosted representatives from 12 different species, all working together on agricultural projects that fed refugee populations throughout the cooperative. Kate Torres had grown from a colonial reporter into the galaxy's most respected documentary journalist. Her coverage of the Revelation War and its aftermath had shown billions of beings that cooperation created possibilities that competition never could. Her latest project documented the transformation of former Zephyrian slave camps into thriving communities where freed prisoners had chosen to stay and build new lives. "Dad, the external threat has everyone scared," Kate observed as they walked through fields where humans worked alongside former Zephyrian soldiers who had become farmers. "But I think we're ready for whatever comes next." Ben nodded as he watched. A group of young beings from 6 different species playing together in the afternoon sun. "We've learned that strength comes from helping each other, not from controlling each other. Whatever's coming, we'll face it together." Dr. Lisa Harper had achieved something that previous galactic civilizations had thought impossible. She had learned to reverse the biological modifications that the Zephyrians had used to create slave populations. Her healing centers were restoring millions of beings to their original forms while offering them the choice to keep beneficial modifications that improved their lives. "The most beautiful part," she explained to visiting journalists, "is that we're not just undoing damage. We're helping species discover new possibilities they never knew they had. Every being we heal teaches us something new about life itself." Director. Blake had retired from Earth's intelligence services to become an advisor to the Cooperative Council. His experience in long-term strategic planning proved invaluable as the galaxy prepared for potential contact with external civilizations. "The approaching signals remind us that the galaxy is bigger than we thought," he told Kyle during a private conversation. "But we've built something here that can handle whatever we face. We've proven that different species can work together when they choose cooperation over dominance." As the unknown fleet continued its approach from beyond the galactic rim, every species in the cooperative prepared for first contact using protocols that humanity had helped develop. They would meet these strangers not as competing powers, but as representatives of a united galaxy that had learned to see differences as strengths rather than threats. Kyle stood at the observation deck of the cooperative headquarters, watching ships from dozens of worlds practicing joint maneuvers in the space around Haven 7. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition in just 2 years, transformed from a collection of suspicious rivals into something approaching a true civilization. The aliens had been right about one thing: humanity was harmless to those who chose friendship over conquest, but they had learned that humans possessed something more dangerous than any weapon: the ability to help others become better than they ever thought possible. As the unknown signals grew stronger and first contact approached, the galaxy prepared to show these new visitors what cooperation could accomplish when guided by species who understood that true strength served justice rather than ambition. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and that made all the difference.